Explosive-laden suicide drones hit Ukraine's capital overnight. The mayor of Kyiv said the capital's central Shevchenko district got hit, damaging several apartment buildings and blocks and setting fire to non-residential buildings, too. And those attacks in Ukraine impacting nearly 30 people staying right here in the Kansas City area. 29 people from Ukraine involved with Fellowship of Christian Athletes attended that global conference here in KC earlier this year. You talked to them.
Yeah, the conference was actually in Texas. They came to KC not long after that because that was February, 2 days before Russia invaded. That group has been here since then. I spoke to one of them last week about what the time has been like and how it's even been possible.
You don't know what's happening, you can't explain it, but you just have to be obedient, and where you happen to be, that's where you happen to be. I guess that God has a plan for that moment.
That is how Andrei Krevtsov explains the first 2 months after the invasion, when he and his family were only planning to be here for a week.
We did not believe that this is actually going to happen in our lifetime.
30 Ukrainians, including one born here during the conflict, were left with nothing but what they packed for a trip and forced to watch devastation from afar.
It's been exhausting, emotionally, physically, spiritually. You're just checking all the time. At that point, we would not think about what to wear because it was not important.
Yeah.
The important was the life of those you love.
Still, they needed help, clothes, and more importantly, a place to stay.
When that happened, we realized there's no manual. Like, we had no playbook to realize, hey, what's the game plan?
Dan Britton is the chief field officer for Fellowship of Christian Athletes. He told me he watched a miracle unfold.
Really, God showed up, the Kansas City family showed up, and the FCA team supported that.
The group went from staying in host homes to apartments in Shawnee and Lee Summit. Donations for food and clothes have poured in for months. I met Andre as he and his wife were sharing their story with a group of teenagers from another local group, See You in the Major Leagues.
Whenever you think you've reached your point, like, these people have just exceeded 100 times what anybody I know have done.
And this group will likely never hear the word refugee the same way again.
Everybody can get in the mindset of refugee. And when you're a refugee, you only do you survive. And you cannot survive for a long time. The crippling moment will be you're going to feel hopelessness because you're going to question your identity. And people will tell you who you are. But you don't have to listen to the people, but you have to listen to Creator who said who you are.
Can you imagine? Andre says he's been back twice in the last 7 months. His home still stands at last check, but it had been looted, which he described as an incredibly violating feeling. He told me the group plans to go back to Europe after the first of the year, likely to Poland, not Ukraine, and they hope to continue not only FCA's mission with coaches and young people, but also help other Ukrainians who've had to leave the country. Just a crazy story. They've been here for that long and dealt with everything they've had to deal with.
Been in Kansas City with all of us.
And still here in Kansas City, they're raising money and trying to gather sports equipment for FCA to take back with them. And you can find out more about that on our website this morning.